Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rotor Talk Live, Season 3, Episode 18. Pretty much a DJI Mavic Air 2 extravaganza tonight. We're going to kind of help you all get prepared for the Mavic Air 2. And you know what? I'm just going to go who's over to my right, and Lauren's to my right. How are you this evening, Lauren?
Not bad. Busy day. Very busy day. Spent most of today in training. And it's fortunate that the training I took today was directly related to what we're going to talk about tonight. So,
well, that's just like perfect timing tonight. That's absolutely fantastic. Mr. Ron Braun, how are you this evening?
Bill, I'm doing well. Had a good day. I didn't do anything drone related today, just the kind of moving and things like that today. But I did read an article in Drone DJ where you can get the Autel Evo, the hard case bundle with 2 batteries, the hard case and all for only like $10.99. So that's my drone research for the day. The deal on the Autel Evo 2, and it was an article in there also about what we discussed last night about the Mavic Air 2 being iPad or tablet compatible. So that was on there too. So and I got a little news about Apple selling the Mavic Air 2, and we'll get to that later on. But I'm going to throw it to my good friend Marcus, who probably had a busy day at the field.
Well, actually, I didn't get out and fly it all today. I wanted to. It was kind of windy. Ron, I got a question for you. That Evo that you were talking about, that's the Evo 2?
Evo 1.
Evo 1. Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense to me. That makes sense. Yeah, I actually spent a bunch of time editing video today, which is kind of goes hand in hand with what we do. We spend a lot of time at our computer editing videos, but yeah, I did not get a chance to get out, and I'm not going to get out tomorrow either because it's we've got high wind warnings tomorrow, but maybe Thursday I can get out and fly a little bit. So yeah, that's about it, Bill.
Yeah, I had trials and tribulations trying to upload a video, but hopefully it's successfully uploaded. And after tonight's broadcast, you guys will be able to watch it is one you don't want to miss. It's my test flight after the Mavic Mini firmware update. It's a good video. So, and I got 2 in this series, so stay tuned. All right. We're going to have, like I said, we're going to help you guys try to get ready for the Mavic Air 2. Hopefully before next week's broadcast, we all have them in hand. Of course, Lauren probably already has his in hand, but that's a whole nother story. Okay. Lauren's like, I know nothing, like Sergeant Schultz. Okay. We're gonna hit a little bit. First of all, want to get a Zino 2 and Fimi update. Marcus, you have any information on either of those?
Yeah, so Zino 2, nothing. The original Zino, they updated the Hubsan X app. That was one of the things that I wanted to get out and test today and did not get the opportunity to do so. With regard to the Fimi X8 SE, so they had a pretty hot price on it, as a lot of people know. It was Banggood had it on sale for $399, and with their code, it brought it to $347, which was a screaming deal. So now they've raised the price to $408, but the little discount code is still active, but it only takes it down to, I believe it's $379, which I think that's still a pretty screaming good deal for that drone. And I know both Ron and Bill have links on any of their videos to buy that thing, and you might find a link in one of my videos too.
Well, that's definitely something you want to pay attention to. Now, I know, Lauren, we're gonna touch on something else too. There's another release going on this week, believe it or not, and it's from DJI, believe it or not. Okay, let's get a drum roll going. Brrr, boom. Okay, it's not a consumer drone, guys. It's the M300, and I'm going to go ahead and share an article that I have on it. And let's go ahead and share the screen here.
Share the buy button too, also, so we
Well,
can go ahead and purchase that thing.
Well, that's the kind of buy button that we would need, like to sell probably. Oh, I don't know, maybe half my annual salary would probably go to buy that. Okay, new Matrice 300 specs leak days before Cyber Workhorse launch, and I'll go ahead and just throw the picture up here. And I was actually talking to Lauren, and one of the questions I had right away was, okay, you notice where the props are on this, okay? The props are underneath. Lauren, why don't you tell us why they're underneath?
Two reasons. Can you make that a little larger, Bill? Can you
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and do that.
Two reasons. Number one, undermounting the props like that increases your lift capacity. And number two, if you kind of scrub your mouse around the very, very top of the drone, Bill, you can see that it's gone to full 360 obstacle avoidance. And by putting those, the sensor side and the props low, just improves the accuracy of the obstacle avoidance. Another thing on the back, you will see the RTK sensors. Those are the little round ones that are off the back arms. And then on the front, you see the antenna for your much improved, or I shouldn't say necessarily much improved, but I wish we had it in consumer, OcuSync 2.0 that increases the range out to about 15 miles. 15 miles? 15 kilometers, sorry.
15 kilometers is still pretty. Wow, yeah, that's still.
What transmission system does it use, Lauren?
It's using OcuSync 2, but it's got a raised power level.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. And Lauren, any inkling of this is going to be when it's available? I mean, it's going to be released this week, but is this something that will actually be at dealers available to purchase by the end of the month, or
that I can't talk about?
Okay, so, all right, that's cool. That's cool. No problem. No problem. All right. Well, this is a pretty incredible drone. The 200 series was pretty good, but it did have quite a few shortcomings. Do you think they did any kind of improvements with the battery on this, Lauren?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that because I know on the 200, I know that was a real pain point. There was a lot of issues with that.
Well, they did, and like they've gone to an IPv6 weather rating, which is like much better than what they were before. So like, yeah, much bigger battery on it, and you've now got a flight time of 50 minutes. Just by the way, in case anybody's wondering, the only thing I can discuss is stuff that has been publicly released by at least somebody. So I'm just repeating what is already out there, just if you know where to look for it. But
gotcha.
Anything that is not publicly released that I don't know about, then I can't talk about it. Just FYI. So
okay.
Lauren, are you allowed to talk about the size of that Matrice? There's nothing in the picture to give it any perspective, so I can't gather how large it is. Is that? Can you speak to the size?
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than the say something like the 210. Is it drastically bigger? Not really. It is. I'd ballpark at 10 to 15% bigger.
How much bigger is it than, say, let's say, give a drone? A lot of people have never even seen a Matrice in person. How many times bigger is it than, I say, a Phantom 4? Man, a lot of people
considerably.
Have never seen a Matrice in real life. So
no, because it's considerably bigger. In the same, if you were to put with props and everything, if you were to say make a box around a Phantom 4 and then make the box around a 210, you could probably fit 4 to 6 Phantom 4s in the same size.
Okay.
Yeah. So At least 4 to 6 times the size.
I believe the biggest drone I've seen in the field is the Inspire.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That I've seen in the field.
The 210 is, and this is, like I say, 10 to 15% bigger, but the 210 is a little over double the size of the Inspire 2.
Okay, that gives me some idea of the size. So we could call that a large drone.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You want to see a big one? Have a look at the 600.
Yeah, the M600. That's a big. I actually saw one of those down at Florida Drone Supply. And you know how I asked, Janelle, the owner, and I said, well, how do you take that? She says, you need a pickup truck.
Yep.
You need a pickup truck. I mean, you should see the case for that. Okay. The case you have to have the bed of a pickup truck to fit the case in it. That's how.
Well, you have a pickup truck, Bill. You should have brought it home and flew it over the lake behind your house.
I would have loved to have done that, but yeah, I would have had to sign my life away for something like that.
And you may have got a phone call now from the neighbors. Somebody saying there's a helicopter flying over the lake.
Yeah, we don't want that right now, especially after the other night when and I shared this with the guys. We had gunshots at 12:30 a.m. the other night, and they found 18 shell casings about 1,000 yards or so east of our house. So yeah, that was a fun night. It sounded like knocks on the door at 12:30, and then we kind of realized what it was, and then kind of got the skinny from some people in the neighborhood and what was going on. So that was an interesting evening. Let me say that. And so was the lack of sleep that we had that night. That's for sure. We're going to move on to the Mavic Air 2 here. All right. And, there's a lot to talk about. And one of the things I thought I'd like to do tonight with everybody is help get everybody prepared for the Mavic Air 2. When you get a new drone, it's more than just going ahead and hitting that infamous buy button, as we so often and fondly like to say, and how Marcus has that index finger is just, that's all it does all day long. And I've heard Sarah has to tape his finger together so it doesn't start hitting that mouse button like that, to hit the buy button, because Marcus is just so used to it. But what I thought I'd like to do is to go ahead and just, kind of go through some things. One of the first things, I know Lauren touched on this last night, and I know Hay put an article out on it today, is about, or I know Drone DJ did, and I get Hay confused with that because he's no longer with him. But Drone DJ put an article about the batteries on the Mavic Air 2. And Lauren, why don't you pontificate, because I think this is pretty important information.
Well, the key thing is, like today I spent, I just got to think, can I talk about this or not? Let's just say I had a discussion with DJI today about the battery issue today, and unfortunately the person I was talking to wasn't extremely knowledgeable about it, and but they really didn't want to acknowledge the issue yet, but I kind of got the impression that they were aware of it and they were working on the solution for it. But what it is that you get your batteries from DJI, and if you click the button on the top, which is your power button, if it doesn't light up, that means your battery has not been initialized. And to actually initialize the battery, you have to give it its first full charge. But the problem that we came across was the fact that do not, and I repeat, do not do your first charge using the gang charger if you buy the Flymore package. The reason for that being is, A, it may not initialize, or B, it may brick. So do charge the batteries one at a time off the charger, and after you've done your first initial charge, you're fine to use the gang charger. But the very first one, charge them individually. Yeah, take the time, as painful as it is, but once those are initialized, then it's not an issue. But if you do have a problem, the DJI support in Europe is aware of it, and I'm hoping the guys in North America get up to speed on this as well. I'm told that it's going to be fixed in a future update, and it's very possible that by the time you guys get your drone, that they have already fixed the issue. The key thing is to, if your battery doesn't light up when you hit it, when it's out of the box, then please just do the single charge first time.
Okay. This is important information, and I wanted to start things off with the Mavic Air 2, talking about that, because I think that's important for everybody, because the last thing you want to do is to do anything to brick your drone. Okay. That's
Marcus.
That is the absolute last thing you wanted to do. Charger up. Yeah. Marcus
Marcus is our Canadian interpreter today.
Marcus did our translation from Canadian to American there, and it said gang charger equals Canadian for charge hub. So either way, don't use the gang charger or the charge hub the first go around, guys. Use the single charger. Do each one battery at a time, and then from there on out, you should be good to go there. Okay. And I think that's important to know that. Now, there's been a couple of other things out there, and there's a couple articles that Hay put out today that I wanted to share. And one of them is on the 8K Hyperlapse, and it creates a bumpy video with dark shadows. And I'm going to go ahead and share the screen and put this article up here, and I want to talk about this here for a little bit. Now, have any of you seen this article? You guys seen this?
Bill, so I watched DC Rainmaker did a really good video, pardon me, about that whole thing, and he goes into great detail about it, and it is interesting. But what I find kind of odd is if you look at DC Rainmaker's video, yeah, you really see what he means. It's shaky and so forth, but like Heinrich over at Tech Drone Review did an 8K hyperlapse with his, and you don't see all that shaking. So I'm not sure what the difference is.
And I also watched DC Rainmaker's video, and Mike Marcus says it's an excellent video. And when he put on 1080p, it had none of the issues it had on 8K. It worked fine. Now, maybe this could be related to the memory card uses we talked about last night.
Yeah, so explain that, Ron. What he said was that because the 8K takes longer to write to the memory card, that they can only go down to one shot. Was it every 6 seconds, Ron?
Right, and for the 8K, but the 1080p would go down to what, 2 or 3 seconds or something like that.
Right, and he said that's why. So there wouldn't be that big of a difference between the shots. Therefore, the 1080p looked better. But like I said, go over to Heinrich's channel, Tech Drone Review, and look at the one where he's using 8K to go around a castle. And boy, his looked really good.
And also, it's not uncommon with time lapses that they bump the resolution down. For instance, on the GoPro Hero 7, if you do a time lapse, it bumps it down to like 1440K from 4K to do the time lapse. So again, no matter what card you use, it's not uncommon on a lot of smaller cameras, which again, the camera in the Mavic 2 Air we would consider a small camera. It's not uncommon they bump the resolution down to 4K to a lesser resolution to do their time lapses. So but as DC Rainmaker said, hopefully in a future firmware update, DJI will be able to fix that, and you will be able to do that 8K hyperlapse without any. What would you word the shaking? Was it shaking the right word, Marcus? Unsteady?
Yeah, kind of bumps. And so what it was is in between those 6 seconds, the drone would move a little bit, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of amount, and you could actually see it in the frame.
And what's mentioned too, he also flew in good weather with light wind, so it wasn't weather conditions that caused this. It was totally internal into the camera.
No, the other thing that you got to keep in mind is that Marcus had pointed out that you've got every 6 seconds between shots, and that's your wait time, and that's a limitation. It's a hardware limitation because you're writing 8K If you go to the 1080 Hyperlapse, you go down to 2 seconds, if memory serves me correct. So that gives the appearance of a lot smoother video. And that 6 seconds delay that you've got on the 8K, that's, you know, like the drone can move a little bit, the camera can move a little bit in that 6 seconds, and that makes it pretty hairy. Personally, I don't see a lot of this as issues they couldn't fix with a firmware update, but again, part of that is to improve it, have that fast SD card.
Now, you know,
That's the one.
I was just gonna talk about that, Marcus. You're like Svengali. You're reading my mind here. Okay, you know, my very first thought when I saw that. Okay, and by the way, it is an excellent video. Okay, I didn't get to see Heinrich's yet. I am gonna watch his, but you know, my first thought right away, first thing I'm thinking is IMU, but then I saw it really wasn't that much, so I'm saying no, it's not IMU. And my second thought was SD card. What kind of SD card was he using today? You know, those are the kind of things that, you know, that kind of stuck in my mind, and you know, and I'm glad we had some discussion about that. So I think that's something, you know, be aware. I think this is something to be aware of. All right. And then with that, and I think this is a good segue to talk about the SD card. Now, I know Lauren's pontificated about this, and Marcus has actually purchased, but let's spend a few minutes on this because I think this is really important here. Okay. Yeah, Lauren is pointing down to Marcus. Okay, Marcus, go ahead and take the lead with this because I know you and Ron did some deep diving into this.
Well, I'm going to ask for some help from Ron, but we went on. So what we were looking for, Lauren, you know, after our discussion last night, we were looking for something that was someplace in between this and this. And so Ron and I were both looking on Amazon at the same time, and Ron found one that was, I believe, 120 write speed. Ron, wasn't it?
No. What happened is, well, we looked at the card that you have. What's the Sandisk card you have that's about $60 on Amazon? What's that called again?
The Extreme Pro. Yeah.
Extreme Pro. Okay, well, we found a slower Sandisk called the Extreme, and it had like a 90 write and like a 160 read. And then we found an Extreme Pro, which has the same name of that, but it's not the same specs. And that first card I mentioned is, I think, less than $15. Now the Extreme Pro that we found, kind of a red and black card, it still had 90 write, but it was a little faster on the read. So as what we could say, we couldn't find any card that had a higher on Amazon that had higher than 90 write speed until you got to the card Marcus just showed. There was kind of nothing in between in the write speeds.
And Ron, to point out that it was just a step up above the one that DJI is offering on their website,
which I think we read only had a 60 write speed.
Something like.
So here's the $60,000 question, guys. All right, let's ask the first one because I know a lot of people were probably like Ron and I, and you know, when we hit that buy button, we got that SD card that DJI had out there. Is that going to be a good enough SD card? Yes or no?
Well, obviously, if they're selling it for the Mavic Air, I would assume they are. But I'm looking at that right now, Bill. I just looked on DJI's website just to make sure we're giving people the right information, and it transfers at 160 megabits, which that's the read speed, but the write speed is 60. And Ron is correct. He's refreshing my memory. The one that we found on Amazon was a 90 megabit write speed. And I'm telling you, I think because it was pretty reasonably priced too. It was about $15, wasn't it, Ron? Something.
We found the two extremes. The Extreme regular was like under 15, and the Extreme Pro, which both of them had the same write speed of 90. That was just a little under 20. So for a hair to 20, you can get the Pro, and you could get the regular Extreme for like around 15. And the big difference that we could see was the read speed was a little bit faster on the non-Pro version of the card. And then so this is under $20 for the better card we mentioned here, as opposed to a little over 60 for the card Marcus showed.
Yeah, and no, that, as I mentioned on last night's show, you can get away with the 90s to a point because it will use part of the internal memory as a buffer. So that, but if you go for an extended shooting and stuff like that, then if that buffer gets full, then that's when you're going to get your skipping and your blips and stuff like that.
Right. We may discuss this show last night, or Marcus and I may have discussed it after the show. You know, if you're the type of person that, you know, you take off and you start your video and you don't shut the video off until you land, say you got 20 minutes plus of video, that could, what Lauren just said, could be a real issue. But most of the time, I don't do that. I maybe, like, you know, if I fly for 20 minutes, maybe I take, 3 6.5-minute clips or whatever. I don't shoot like a big 20-some minute clip. So I'm going to have less problems with that buffering than somebody that just starts recording and doesn't stop until they land after a long flight.
You know, that's a good point, Ron, because I think a lot of people, when they first get drones, if they're brand new to drones, the first thing that a lot of people teach them is, you know, oh, you want to turn record on as soon as you take off because you'll forget, okay? Because you'll get up there. Because I know it happened to me when I was a newbie, okay? I'd go out there, fly it, and then I'd look, where's the video? And it's like, I didn't hit record, okay? So, you know, you learn that lesson early on. And I think, you know, that could be a hard habit to break. I mean, but, you know, it's something for me. It was very easy after a while because I realized being able to download things off the SD card onto my computer took a whole lot less time when I'm not trying to download 20 minutes for like, and I'm going to use like a 4-minute segment out of that 20. You know, it doesn't make sense to shoot all that and everything. So what's the consensus on, you know, I know the Extreme Pro is probably what we want to get. What are we looking for with write speed?
Well, I believe Lauren.
All I can say is, you know, there is some leeway. You can go with the 90s, but you're going to get buffering. And if you have a fairly long clip, you are more prone to possibly have skips. You know, like if you start shooting from the time you take off till the time you land, you're going to be more prone to it. Whereas if you're selective in your shots, it's not going to be an issue with the 90 because of the buffering. That being said, if you go with a real fast card, somebody was mentioning about the UHS-II. UHS-II is really good, provided, and I say provided, you get a card that is UHS-I compatible as well. If it's strictly UHS-II, don't bother buying it for your drone because most of the drones only handle UHS-I. And I'm just going to finish that off. And I spend the money on good cards because, as I said, I can't replace a lot of the shots that I do. But it's also future-proofing because as the drones get better, they're going to demand a UHS-II card.
Yeah,
just thinking long-term.
That was my question, Lauren. You explained it last night, and I didn't fully understand it until you did. But the difference between a UHS-I and a UHS-II, it's more than just what's inside the card. It's also the hardware and the connection, correct?
Yep, absolutely. I take it looks like you haven't even opened it up yet.
I haven't. No.
Well, let's do an unboxing.
Let's do an unboxing.
And you'll see on the back of that fast card, you'll see that instead of one row of contacts, there's actually 2 rows of contacts. So it's going to look weird, and you're going to go, "Is this going to work?" You know, but just as long as you make sure that that card is UHS-I compatible as well, you'll have no issues.
Gboy 185 puts up a good comment here, and I got it up there. If you're not sure of the speeds of your current cards, Google a free app called CrystalDiskMark. It gives you a rundown of your read and write speeds. Gboy 185, thank you for posting that. Appreciate that. That's a good resource to have. So I think we've covered this. I think we've covered this pretty good. You know, because you want to look, you know, like Lauren said, you know, you probably want to go with a UHS-II. You probably want to get a high write speed or high write speed on it. 90's okay, but you'll probably want to go a little bit higher than 90. So, and guys, Ron and Marcus, did they have anything higher than 90 on Amazon or not?
Only the card Marcus has there, which was like what Marcus? What's that card? 180 or?
Well, 275. So I don't know exactly what the write speed is, but it's advertised 275, and I assume that's read.
Okay.
Okay.
I forget. We looked it up on Amazon last night. I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the upper. It wasn't 200, but it was almost up to 200. The write speed of the card Marcus has there.
Okay, so I don't know. Tell me if this.
Yes, I can definitely see the two. Yeah, the two rows of contacts there.
And that's what Lauren was describing to us.
And I'm actually familiar with that. In my Olympus camera, I have the same. I forget what's the UHS-II or whatever. I have the same type. It's a bigger, you know, the full size SD card. I have that to take video on my Olympus real camera because, you know, we talk about bit rates here. The Olympus camera does it better than 250 bits or whatever. So it needs that type of card that Marcus just showed with the second rate of bits to, you know, capture all that bit rate.
You know, this is. I'm glad we brought this up. And what I'm going to do is after the show, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the description or more than one link to some cards that, you know, are going to meet DJI specs that are UHS-IIs with the high write speeds. So I think it's important because, you know, this is, you know, you need to focus on that here. Is, you know, if you're buying this drone, you want to get your dollar's worth out of it. And, you know, the whole thing is this, guys. Okay, you know. We can talk about battery life. We can talk about sensors. We can talk about precision landing. We can talk about OcuSync all day long. But you know what? If we don't get good video from when we're up there shooting, okay, you know, it's like, you know, might as well be a milk truck, you know, for all it's worth.
Hey, Bill, can I throw a comment in real fast? Something you said. Somebody said, well, if DJI is recommending that certain card for the Mavic Air 2. It'll probably work. And of course it will work, but just because the manufacturer recommends the card or even sells the card, here's the story. I bought the Parrot at Napi over a year ago, same time Marcus did. And it came with an 8 gigabyte SD card. And I don't know what the write speed was on it, but I noticed, you know, I just flew with it because it's kind of built in inside the drone. It's hard to get in and out. I just left it in there and flew with it for the first couple of months I owned it. So by the middle of the end of summer, I switched out and put a much better memory card in it. And I don't know what write speed it was, but it honestly was better than that card. And all of a sudden, my video looked much better. You know, like it was like I got a new drone when I put this, new memory card in. Marcus?
Hey, so you guys were asking me about I don't know if you can read that, but
275, 100.
And 100, yes. I looked on the back of the card and it was there. So 100 is the write speed on that.
It's only 10 write speeds faster than the Extreme Pro, which was 90. So you're paying triple the money for a card that, you know, you gain a 10 whatever bytes of write speed. But as Lauren said, those extra pins on the back, the hardware itself could make all the difference.
Did you look at the pins, Marcus?
I did. I showed it.
Yeah. You were away, but he showed the pins. We got it on close up.
Okay.
It's like a freeway as opposed to a 2-lane road.
Yep.
Ron makes a good point.
So,
the DJI recommended card will work, but it's the minimum necessary. Please just get the best cards. And definitely, Marcus, how much was your card on Amazon?
It was right at $65, I think.
Last night it was close. It was like 61 and change last night when we were doing the research.
Yeah, well, you know, Marcus, if you could throw a link in the chat so people can have that, and I'll drop it in the description for later. That would be great. because I want to make sure, if you guys, you should be into this, okay? Because you want to get that quality, you want to get quality video, you need to do this, especially for this drone. I mean, with some of the features and capabilities we're going to have with this, it's a must. You really can't mess around with this. It's like, and here's one of the other things. This is one of my pet peeves is this. Ever since I've gotten drones, guys will spend $1,500 on a Mavic 2 Pro, smart controller, whole 9 yards, everything, maybe even up, even more than that. And they want to get a $35 case for it. And I'm like, okay, it's one of those things I just kind of like scratch my head. Okay, you're spending all this money for a drone and you want to get a $35 case for it. It's like, no, guys, you need to spend the money, get a good quality case that's going to protect your drone, kind of a thing. And that's probably one of the other things that I have to say is, when you're thinking about it, and if you're getting the Fly More kit, guys, okay, the case that comes with it, it's okay for taking it out to the local park or something like that. But if you're using it for long-term use, and if you want to get something out of it, go out there and do some research. I know GoPro or GPC. Thank you, Lauren. GPC makes great cases. What's the company from Canada?
Canuck.
Nanook, I thought. I might be wrong.
Nanook.
Nanook. There's both.
I know, because Barry Markowitz talks about them as well too. They're good ones. Yeah, those are good. They're good cases. In one of the landmarks and who taught me this was Rick Smith. Now you remember with the Mavic Mini, if it sat in a case for a while, those back props kind of got bent and you had to end up replacing them. Okay. And one of his things is he said, when you look for a case, it should, with the props on, you can always take the props off. With a Mini, it's a pain in the butt because you have to screw them on and off. But if they're, if they're pop off, like a lot of them are, you just pop them off. But the thing is, the prop should sit below the level of the foam, because even with the eggshell, you don't want any weight sitting on that. And he says, that's kind of important. So your case needs to be a little bit deeper in order to accomplish something like that. So that's just kind of like just some food for thought. If you guys are going out there, I can
guarantee to you right now, when that Mavic Air 2 arrives in the middle of May here, it will not sit in the case long enough to get the bent props, at least in my house.
And it'd be the same for me too. Okay,
that thing will be Ron. It won't be packed on the shelf in that case. So, but anyways, thank you folks for joining us for this week in memory cards. Come back next week again for another exciting show where we take a deep dive into memory cards.
We might. Who knows? And if the timing's right, you might have a quadruple unboxing live next week, kind of a thing. So,
real fast before you go to your next segment. Last night after the show, I was reading that Apple is selling the Mavic Air 2, and if you would have ordered it last night, before a certain time, they said it would arrive to your house on the 12th.
Really?
Now, today, of course, is backed up in a day. If you ordered today from Apple, it would be one day later. But last night, when I first read this, if you ordered that moment, they were talking about a arrival date of the 12th.
Did you order?
And you guys that pre-ordered,
I got you one too,
yours will arrive about the same time, because, like I said, the release date for the U.S. was the 11th. So nobody is allowed to receive them. No. Consumers are allowed to receive them before the 11th, and in Canada it's the 15th. So
gotcha.
Okay. Of course, with Apple involved in the process, if they got in dispute with DJI, they could just buy the whole company with just money they have sitting around on the shelf. And
Tim Cook could reach into his front pocket and get the money out. And Frank Wang would say, "Sold. Here you go. I'm done. It's all yours, Tim.
I'm going to an island for the next.
I'm out here. We're done. But that's been a dream of a lot of people for a long time. All right, kind of moving on a little bit. We're still on the Mavic Air 2 here. Okay. Now, one of the other things that Hay talked about today was the 48 megapixel camera. Okay, now there's an article on this, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll share this one too.
While you're doing that, Bill, I found something you were looking for earlier.
What's that? Ah, all right.
I don't know if you heard that or not, but
Yes, I did.
I got a drum roll.
Okay, how does DJI's Mavic Air 2 take 48 megapixel photos, and at what expense? Okay, the Sony IMX586 sensor enables the Mavic Air 2 to shoot 48 megapixel stills. Now, he gets into some things here, and what expense. However, this wizardry must come up some price, you would think, and you're right. It seems that when you take a 48 megapixel photo, the sensor has less light sensitivity available. The result becomes clear in the shadow areas of the image. The shadows are darker and display more noise when compared to the same scene photographed in the 12 megapixel photo mode. At times, it even seems that the entire 48 megapixel is somewhat underexposed. So what you gain in resolution, you lose in low light ability. You get increased noise in dark areas of the image. The 48 megapixel photo option works best when a lot of light is available and the scene is evenly lit. Let's go down here because there's a picture posted here, and this is a 48 megapixel picture here. And it's a partly cloudy day, and it's kind of there's some darkness in here, but the resolution is good. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze about. What's your take, guys?
It's good, but anytime, like, they're using pixel splitting to get the 48 megapixel, which basically means where you would normally have 1 pixel, they split it into 4. The native mode is 12 megapixel. If you do the just a 12 megapixel picture and then do the exact same picture at 48 megapixel, you'll see that the low light performance is much better on the 12 megapixel because it's not doing the pixel splitting. The kind of the other side of the coin is if you have a well-lit area, like if you were out in an open field, the amount of resolution you get is just, it's great. But it's just, when you do the pixel splitting, you're going to get low light suffering.
Well, and I think, it kind of, that kind of lends itself to the fact with that short paragraph that I read right there. This is probably best used on bright days in open areas. Would I kind of be correct on that assumption?
Yep.
So, it's
my opinion. So,
well,
I'll throw in there too. I mean, I've had cameras for years that I'm going to call it pixel faking or whatever. And, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean, it's great for like a well-lit landscape or whatever, but it's certainly not a feature that you would use just for routine photography. Say you're taking a picture of, I don't know, a building or something near your house or just something random or whatever. You wouldn't want to take the 48 megapixel. That's for, like you said, you got some kind of great landscape or, I won't even say a sunset because that's low light. You'd probably want to have the light the 12 megapixel image could get you rather than, 48 megapixel kind of badly lit. So again, I would say in full sun, like a landscape without a lot of moving things in it would be ideal for this 48 megapixel photo. But it's more of a, I don't want to use the word gimmick, but it's more of a thing you just use once in a while than a daily way you want to shoot pictures. Just my take.
Well, it's important here to understand this because when you watch a release event or if you watch the promo videos and you see 48 megapixels, you're like, boom, right away. You instantly think, oh, you can take 48, but now you realize there's some caveats with this. And I think, those of us that have been around drones for a while, we know that, and we kind of expect that. But somebody that's relatively new that hasn't been around drones a lot, they expect, oh, it's going to be 48 megapixels. Well, there's a little asterisk with this. And I think that's something that you need to condition, especially people who, let's say this is their second drone, or let's say even, somebody's, just jumping into the hobby and buying the Mavic Air 2, and getting a lot, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, which you really are with this drone. But you have to realize there's some, like Hay says in that article, this comes at a price. There is some price with that. So it's kind of like caveat emptor, buyer beware kind of a thing.
Hey, can I ask Lauren a question? And he may not say anything. Do we know anything about the file size of these 48 megapixel images? And wait a minute, are these 48 megapixel images, are they just JPEGs, or can they be JPEGs and DNGs or RAWs?
Yep, both.
And how big is the file size of these 48?
Well, realistically, if you go through Pixel Counter, they're not quite 48 megapixel. They're cropped down a little bit. To be honest, you got me stumped there because I can't remember looking.
Yeah, it's something that you would. I just took a chance. I don't always look at the file size of. Like say, I could take a 64 megapixel photo on my Olympus camera doing a similar technique, but I know the file sizes are much bigger than a regular 12 mega. Well, I think that camera's a 20 megapixel, but it's much bigger file. But I don't remember how much bigger. But sorry, Bill, I didn't mean.
No. That's good, Ron. Go ahead, Lauren.
I want to answer a question there by Lon. He was talking about the smart photo. It's funny, we were discussing that today, and the smart photo works on, they've classified pictures into 6 different classifications, and whether it's let's see, I gotta try to remember the 6, but you've got snow, you've got sand, you've got grass, you've got sunset, and I can't remember the rest. But what smart photo does is that it will kind of automatically choose which setting you're trying to shoot for based on what it sees out the lens, and that's what the smart photo works for, and it will automatically set for that, unless of course you go to a manual mode, but then you haven't selected your smart photo. So hopefully I confused the hell out of you on that.
Well, of course. That's what you do best. No, that's what no. I'm sorry, Lauren. I shouldn't say that. And I would say that's what my ex-wife did best. She confused the daylights out of me all the time. So
just a quick answer. Smart photo. So smart photo, it has to be activated, or it's always activated.
It's a photo mode.
Right. Okay. It's one you would go in and choose.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you would have to do less as an end user to get the proper photo.
Yeah. It's think of it this way. Oh, okay. It's think of it this way. It's kind of like using your Instamatic camera.
Right. Right.
It does all the work, and all you're doing is pushing the button. That's the easiest way I can explain it.
It sounds like an intelligent feature that Marcus Crawford should do a deep dive.
Oh, Marcus. That sounds like a video for you.
Well, I just say that. Yeah, it sounds like it's right up my alley. I'm tickled to death.
Well, I just wanted to throw, and you guys probably saw. I put up on the screen. This is the card here. So, and I'll make sure that link. And I'll get Stephen Ewan's link too, and put it in there for everybody outside the U.S. or North America. I don't know. I think Stevens is probably good in the UK, but anyway, I'll post those links in the description after we're done tonight, so you guys can go ahead and have that. So, one of the other things that I kind of wanted to discuss tonight is also we open it up. We'll get the gang charger or the what do we call it?
Charger.
Yes. We put that to the side. We charge each battery individually. We charge the remote and and everything. We get the SD card in there and let's say those of us here's another suggestion for everybody. And this is something I got into the habit 2 drones ago, is to format the SD card in the drone. Okay.
Yes.
That's something a lot of people skip that and miss that. And then I'm having problems with the SD card. I can't transfer things. I can't do this. The best thing is, and it's super easy. You know, I know the Mavic Mini made it real super easy to do that, and I'm sure that the Fly app is going to be super easy with the Mavic Air 2 to do that. So, you know, that's kind of like, if you know, kind of like some food for thought. But one of the other things that we need to do, it needs to be just, you know, one of those things right away that we do after everything's charged up and you're ready to go. Okay, first thing you do, an IMU calibration. Okay, that should be without question the very first thing you do. Okay, number 2, a gimbal calibration. Okay, and number 3, and obviously you got to do this outside, because doing it inside and doing any good is a compass calibration. What do you guys have anything above and beyond what I just said that we should do before we go out and fly? I'm going to open it up to everybody.
Yeah, so let me start on this one, Bill. And I want to speak a little bit on our previous subject. So all of those flight modes that DJI is putting in there, and I know that there's a lot of things that people are saying that, you know, well, this doesn't work exactly right, or that doesn't work exactly right. I applaud DJI for going out on the cutting edge and giving us some of that stuff. And then, like Lauren said, if you use it correctly in bright light is where most of that is designed to be used, you're going to get some good results. So, you know, I guess what I want to say is don't expect everything to work in every situation, if that makes any sense. Yeah, but then with regard to your drone before you fly it, I would for sure, this drone in particular, we have to install the props because they don't come on the drone already. So look at those, the screws on each of the props or the studs, and make sure that they're in good shape. And I would inspect the arms on the drone, look for anything possible kind of damage there. And look over the gimbal and make sure that it's free and everything is working like it should. You know, fire up your remote, test your remote, make sure that everything is working as it should on there as well. And even once you get the drone fired up, you may want to try some of those different, you know, try some of the functions on that remote to make sure they're all working. Ron.
I'm gonna, you know, just you pointed out about the, you know, test the gimbal, whatever. Do the gimbal calibration too before you fly the first time, so you don't get that crooked horizon, whatever, on the first flight. But you know, that's about the only thing I can add that Bill, you and Bill haven't already said.
Lauren, anything you can add to that?
Yep, you guys forgot one calibration.
What's that?
Do your controller calibration. Do your controller calibration. 99.9% of the time it's fine out of the box, but why not you know, get rid of that last 0.1%?
Well, you know, that's a good point. And you know, and just for those of you who have not done this before or not familiar with the time involved, these are very short in time. Okay, they're not these, you know, 20-minute sessions that you're going to take. The compass, I'm sure all of you have done compass calibrations, but you know, the IMU calibration, that takes maybe 5. All these take less than probably 5 minutes. Am I right, guys?
Right.
Yeah, I don't do compass calibrations. We call that the DJI dance.
The DJI dance. Okay. Now, Lon brought up a good point here with a single GPS and IMU.
What do you mean by single GPS?
Well, I think he's talking about the single IMU.
Okay.
I checked the KP numbers, the satellite numbers, before flying this drone. I think that's a good point, Lon. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's another good thing that you need to kind of pay attention to when you're going up there. Now, I guess here's another question. Okay. Now, you know, one of the things for me, and I saw, and it was out on one of my Facebook groups today, and I think it was my Mavic Air 2 Facebook group. You know, somebody was asked, should I buy a landing pad? Okay. Well, no, it's just, you know, I get several of them like, oh, hand catch, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, not everybody hand catches. I can tell you that right now. Okay. Lauren is chomping at the bit. You know, I can tell right now. Lauren is definitely saying landing pad. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like I use a landing pad. To be honest, there's times when I will do hand catches, but very seldom that I do a hand launch because there's just too many things can go wrong on a hand launch, not just safety wise, but when it comes to dealing with your RTH. And the landing pad, the biggest thing that's going to do, it's going to keep dirt and dust out of places that you don't want it. So just, landing pad, actually my landing pad is not a cheap one. Like I use, in US dollars, it's probably about $55 because I use a weighted landing pad. And that's mainly because a lot of places that I go, you can't stake down the landing pad because it's all rock.
Okay. Yeah. Like when we went to Reddington Beach with Ron, it's like it was so windy. It's like I had to drive my stakes pretty deep into the sand for that to hold.
Bill's Boy Scout experience came in handy that night.
Yeah. I had to dig a hole halfway to China, but I probably shouldn't say that. Marcus also had a good thing too. Another thing, when you come back post flight, get out your air duster, okay, and dust off the gimbal, dust off anything around there, just off the whole drone. I mean, that's a good habit. I mean, especially like when we went to the beach with when Ron and I took our drones up at the beach. I mean, that was the first thing I did when I got home was get a can compressed air and just went over the drone because sand is probably one of the greatest enemies of drones. It's so invasive you don't even know it will get in places you don't even think it will get in. So that's what I did right away. Just that, and then the mat too, because sand will get everywhere. So I left that in the truck and I took care of that out in the garage before I even brought it in the house. Canadian Drone Pilot brought up a good point here too, guys. Okay. And a very basic item for new pilots, please remember to take the camera cover off before you power up the drone. Okay. I've seen a lot of videos. Now, when I was a newbie, I was guilty of this myself. Okay. Not taking that cover off, and I'm pressing that power on button and I'm hearing the gimbal's having some problems working. And I'm like, why is it having some problems there, Bill?
You hear a little grinding.
Yeah, maybe that cover's on. So yeah, that's a good point, Canadian Drone Pilot. Thanks for bringing that up. I know, it's like you have to make sure that that's taken care of. I mean, that seems to be a must. So I think that's something that's important that you do need to do there. So
myself, like I've been flying 8 years now, and all of my drones on my gimbal cover / gimbal lock, I have a little tag. I went and bought at the nearest aeronautics place, and I don't know if you've ever seen them on an airplane where it says "remove before flight." Mm-hmm. I actually have that tag that hangs off of my gimbal cover / gimbal lock.
Wow! See, that's that
doesn't matter how long you've been flying. There's sometimes you get excited or whatever. It's just like that's the weakest link on your drone is going to be your gimbal. So
yeah, you want to get up that drone in the air real quick. You want to catch a good sunset, and then you're thinking you're almost at the ready, and then you realize the gimbal cover's still on. So
yep.
And Stephen Ewing dropped a good one too. Drone laws in your area. I think that's a good thing. You need to be prepared and aware of and everything. And of course, for those of us here in the U.S., we're going to have AirSense, and that's going to be a good thing for us to get used to, especially, lately. I've had a lot of air traffic out there. And then Saturday when I took the Mavic Mini up, a lot of air traffic. Marcus, go ahead.
Well, Jaybird makes a good point, and this is easy to forget. I've done it, and I'll bet all of you guys have too. You get out there, and either your controller is not charged enough, or even the battery on your drone, you forgot. You were so excited to go out flying, you didn't have it charged.
Well, I'll even add another one: your smartphone or tablet.
Right.
Make sure
that's probably more often your phone. That can get you easy. Yeah,
that'll really get you into a sticky situation here. So we got a lot to look forward to with this drone. I mean, it's really going to be, I think, a great drone. I think it's going to provide a lot of benefits to us, and I think it's going to be a portable drone of choice. I think for me, like if we're going up north or if I'm going traveling somewhere, that's going to be the drone I'm going to look at taking. Okay.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room here.
Go ahead, Lauren. Go for it.
Missing ADS-B. I know.
Right. That's why I just said AirSense.
Yeah. Well, ADS-B. There's a lot of people just. I just want to reiterate because I got into a discussion today with some people too, and they said they don't want the ADS-B because they don't want people spying on them. The ADS-B used in the DJI drones is an ADS-B in only. So it only receives the information that is being transmitted by all aircraft under the current regulations that went into effect January 1st. If it's in the air and a manned aircraft, it requires an ADS-B transmitter. And what the ADS-B in allows you to see those, it doesn't transmit anything. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that because there's been some people that are still adamant that it will transmit your position and your drone's position and stuff like that. It doesn't. Okay.
Well, that's a great point to bring up, Lauren. I mean, all private aircraft here in the United States as of January 1st this year, that includes your Cessnas, your Piper Cubs, helicopters, everything up to the, your commercial aircraft. Everyone has to have transmit and receive capabilities, as far as aircraft are concerned. Okay. As far as this is concerned, like Lauren said, this only receives, this does not transmit. So nobody has any idea where you're at. Just be knowledgeable. Okay. One of my wife's big statements is knowledge is power. So this is some knowledge. And I hope Metro Drones, thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate that. That's fantastic. And kind of like I'm getting ready to kind of wrap things up here. I mean, this was such a good session, and Lon, you contributed a lot tonight. Thank you for that. A lot of people in the chat contributed a lot. Jay Bird brought up some good points. I think this is a good kind of a exercise to go through before a new drone we actually receive it. Okay, we covered things. Especially we talked about the charging right away. And be knowledgeable about that, Lauren. So Lauren gave us some great knowledge on that. The SD cards we did spend some time on, and I'm going to drop links in the description after we're done here tonight, so you guys can go ahead and check out those cards on Amazon. And also, DJI, what they have recommended there, the minimums. Okay, but remember, what we talked about in this discussion, and then all the points that a lot of you brought up in chat tonight were fantastic. Okay, we talked a little bit about cases, we talked about landing pads, talked about making sure things are charged up, talked about some of the calibrations you should do before you go out and fly for the first time as well. Okay, these are all some things. We get into some good habits. And I think especially for those of you who may be new, this might be your second drone. This may be your first drone. I think these are all good points to take, to kind of soak in and to make sure that you have a good understanding of this before you even get your drone. So my suggestions are, if you want to look for a case now, a landing pad. Get some of these things prepped up because the 12th is going to hit here, and most of this. I expect most of us are probably going to get them by that time. Those of us that that kind of were Johnny on the spot and ordered them as soon as it was available on the website. So let's go to closing thoughts. Lauren, you can go first.
Nothing other than I think for the most part, you guys are going to really enjoy the drone. It's a really nice drone. As usual, it handles like a DJI drone. So that being said, I'm going to be wishing everybody a farewell for a while. I've got a lot of big things coming up, and I'm going to do a little name drop here, so to speak. But one of the things is that the beginning of next month, I'm organizing an international event, and that's starting to take up time trying to arrange all of that, and There used to be what was called International Drone Day. That has now kind of become defunct. And so I started a new movement late last year. It's called Drones for Good International. And we will be doing a fly-in, and we highly endorse people doing a safe and legal fly-in in your local location. The group can be found on Facebook. It's, like I said, it's called Drones for Good International. And what it is to kind of highlight all the good things that drones do, despite what the media portrays us as being. So we've got some very, very nice backers, including, well, of course, Haya and Romeo Dersher from DJI. He's a huge backer for us, and so that's been really good. And we've had several large organizations join. So if you want to join, feel free to join. And our annual event will be held the first Sunday of every June. And well, tune into the channel and have a look on what's happening there, and you'll get more details as time comes along. Between that and some other things that I can't talk about, I will probably won't be back until at least July. So farewell.
Thank you for everything, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren. We really appreciate that, and so does everybody in the chat as well too. Mr. Ron Brown.
Well, I was going to say, that's a lot he can't talk about all the way to July, but you know, I'm sure there'll be a lot to report when he does return to the airways. So we're gonna miss you. I don't have a whole lot except to say that I dropped the link in the chat a while back. We're going to have an after party show over at the Philly and Ron show right after this ends. So if you guys aren't doing anything, stop by, check us out. You know, we kind of a drone show, a show about nothing really, but show about nothing that talks about drones somewhat. But Mike does have a big story. Everybody knows he lost his Mavic Mini a while back, and somebody found it and brought it back to him. So yeah.
Oh, no.
The Mavic Mini is back, so he has a good story to tell on that. So if you're interested, stop on by later. We'll be serving pretzels and refreshments, so all are welcome. So I will say, Marcus, on your closing, would you cover just a little bit about? We didn't talk about this all. The Fimi X8 giveaway for $299. That about all the names are published. You could tell it better than me, Marcus.
Yeah, so there were a lot of people that wondered about that, and of course, all I know, mostly what I know, is on Bill's Fimi X8 SE Facebook page, and there have been a number of people that have signed on to that, saying that hey, they won. So anybody that doubted whether the Banggood was going to actually give people that rebate back down to $299. There were several of them that posted on there. Is it 1,000 people? I don't know, but I do know that neither Bill or I's order, neither one of us won. But yeah, and then for me, geez, I've got a video that I'm going to put up not long after the show here. The Mavic Mini versus the Mavic 2 Zoom. A little tongue-in-cheek comparison there. Yeah, then working on some other stuff. I'm hoping to get out and fly this week like everybody else. And yeah, just next Sunday night, Drone Seekers live at 3 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday afternoon, I should say. Check out Drone Seekers live, and with those mostly the Spanish expats, but Steve's from the UK, and a lot of good talk about drones. So we'll see you, Ron.
Yeah, we'll see you, Ron. Thank you again for showing up. First of all, Lauren, thank you for all your knowledge, expertise, sharing, and you're a great guy as far as not only drone knowledge but photography knowledge, and We really appreciate that. We're going to miss your expertise until July. So, we will personally stay in touch with you, of course. But, he won't be hitting the airwaves until July. And I think it'll kind of be obvious as far as that's concerned. Before I close here, I also want to make sure not to be remiss to, we are starting to open up again here in the United States, slowly but surely. And I think it's good. Signs are, there's a lot of positive signs around the world. One of the things that I did tonight was I went out to Johns Hopkins website, and there's been 1.8 million, I believe, have recovered from COVID-19 around the world. So, and 187,000 have recovered here in the United States. We also always hear the negative and how many deaths and everything. I like to see the positive here. And the positive is there's a lot of people that have recovered. There's a lot of people here in the United States that have recovered. Businesses are start to opening again. I know here in Florida, restaurants are allowed to go at 25% capacity or serve outside. So there's some signs of life. Things are starting to pick back up. And I think that's important for us to do that. But we also need to, if you get a chance to, thank a first responder, thank a person, a medical professional who's been working the front lines in this crisis. Do something for them if you can. Okay. And always, like Marcus has said so well, don't beep your horn at that person that's cutting you off right now. Let it pass. Maybe that's something that should be a permanent state of mind. Just let a lot of things pass. Let a lot of things go. They're not important here. What's important is, we're getting through this. We'll get through the other side, and it will be a great day to fly again. Okay, it really will. And I have a video coming out, and it should be out not long after I'm done here. So you guys definitely want to check that out. Hop on over to Philly Drone Life to check Ron on that show with Mikey. Mikey's a great guy. You got to love him. So thanks, everyone, for a great evening. And remember, everyone, please be safe, and we'll see you next week.